yes. Well, thank you so much for being on Music Hat. My name is Naya with Green Eyes. It is a pleasure to have you on. I have I have looked at your book actually. Why
Okay.
don't you tell us a little bit about what got you started in writing about the magic of renting? Is that correct?
So my background is in residential property management, and
Okay.
actually fell into that by accident. Um,
Do tell.
so,
Tell.
oh yeah, absolutely. So I was going to graduate school to get my MBA, and my plan was to become a management consultant. You know, one of those people with the cape that you drop into a company and they solve all the problems and move on to the next one. And my timing was as horrible as it could possibly have been, because this is around 2000, 2001, when the dot-com bubble was bursting and the entire consulting industry was actually imploding a lot right along with it at that
Oh
point
wow.
in time. Um, so plan A did not work. So I ended up coming back home because I was in Virginia at the time. So I ended up coming back home to California and trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And interestingly enough, at the same time, my mother was doing research on how to acquire property by paying the back taxes that were owed on it. Um,
Hmm.
so she said to me, well, since you're kind of in this in between phase right now, why don't you just come with me and we'll take a look at this?
All
So we took a,
right.
so we took a road trip from California to Florida, and we went county by county looking at properties that are on what they call the lands available list, which is a list of properties where the county tried to auction off their tax lien and nobody bought it. So we ended up buying three properties off of those lists,
Okay.
and then we took those, and then we took those properties and we sold them to developers that were looking to build houses or whatnot, because these are typically vacant lots
Hmm.
on that list. So that's kind of how the ball got started rolling in real estate. And when we sold them, we're like, well, that was great, but you did it, you sold it. There's no ongoing income from that. And then that led
Hmm.
us to look into investing in multifamily properties and then actually renting those out to people. So from zero, we got up to a total of 72 units that we were renting out to people that I was managing. And that's kind
Oh
of how I got into multifamily residential property. Now, the second part of your question is about the book.
wow.
So I'm in the bookstore in the real estate section because I'm doing a lot of research and reading, and this is the area that I'm working in. And then I noticed something I'd never seen before. There were plenty of books for owners, managers, investors, and all of those folks, but there weren't any books written for renters, which
Hmm.
I found really odd because for a number of reasons. Number one, renters are a group of 43 plus million households across the United States that are bringing $500 billion, that's with a T, to the table in rent every year,
Hmm.
and nobody's talking to them. The other thing that was really interesting is I can get advice on how to buy a computer or a car or how to get the best deal on a refrigerator. But when it comes to something that like rent, where I'm spending a third or more of my income on it, the a
Hmm.
lot of the advice just wasn't there on how do I negotiate with landlords? What language are they even speaking? What are the problems that they're having so that
Right.
I can have a positive impact on those problems and we can come to some kind of happy medium.
Right.
So that was really intriguing to me, and that's really where the book started, with that realization of the just the lack of information that's out there. And then the next thing I realized is a lot of people spend all this time, we're going to college, we're getting educated, all of that, and then when you're done, you get this really beautiful embossed piece of paper with your name on it that says all
Hmm.
of these wonderful things, but there was no training in terms of the practical things that you need to do in life. Like even things as simple as I've met college students who don't know how to write a check.
Mm.
Yes, one of the properties that I managed was student housing, and
Okay.
it was time to pay, and it was time to pay the rent. This particular student had a check from his mother. She had signed it. There was no amount written on the check, and there was no entry on the pay to order line. So anyone could have taken that check and written any amount on it and cashed that check. And he didn't understand the gravity of this. I'm like, this is not the way this is done. Let me explain this to
Right.
you.
Break it down to you. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, because your family could be broke if the wrong person got the check. So you need to understand. Yeah,
Right.
it's like no, no, no. We need to sit down and have a conversation right
Oh
now.
my God.
Um, so that's the kind of lack of kind of financial literacy that's running around out there. And the issue that the book is addressing is just another part, it's just another piece of that. um,
Mm-hmm.
because when you graduate from college, you need two things: a job and a place to live. And the practical aspects of finding the place to live are never really discussed. And yet
No.
it's that next phase that you're walking right into after you graduate.
Right. So in your book, you are basically helping people with questions that they may have when they find a renting place, or like when they're inquiring about what they maybe want to look for and things like that. So in your book, is this something that you maybe have experienced and you was like, you know what, I'm gonna, tell people about this, that way they'll know, because I needed to know the same information when I was at that same state. So is
Well,
this something?
I was actually on the other side of that equation. So I was the landlord, and
Okay.
I was running into a lot of renters who had a lot of questions. There was a lot of confusion out there, and you've probably noticed this. There is a national shouting match going on between renters and landlords, and both sides
Yeah.
feel
Oh
like
yeah.
they're being taken advantage of by the other, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody's actually hearing what the other side is saying. So that shouting
Mm-hmm.
match is not doing anyone any good. Uh, and, and the other part of it is, if I'm if my next step after graduating from school is to rent an apartment, this is going to have a huge impact on how much I pay for rent. It's going to have a huge impact
Mm-hmm.
on my ability to save money, my ability to do anything with any kind of retirement account, my ability to put an insurance policy in place to protect my family should something happen to me. I mean, all of these, the ripple effects are huge. Um, so I'm sharing my kind of insider secrets, which is why it's called rental secrets, from the landlord side, so that renters really understand where landlords are coming from, what landlords are dealing with, and put them in a position where they can actually negotiate with the landlord. Because once you know what language the other person is speaking and you know what their problems are, then I can negotiate with you in a way that's meaningful to you. And if I can help you solve, and people who help solve problems get paid. And in this
Exactly.
case, would be they would get paid in the form of lower rent.
So in your book, what are a couple of chapters that people have that you find that people talk about the most? Like, what are the main things that people say, oh, okay, this
Mm-hmm.
chapter, it stands out above all the rest.
Mm-hmm.
What are a couple of
Well, one part of the book talks about this myth that most renters believe, that landlords are all wealthy individuals that are sitting on their yacht, sipping Mai Tais, watching the sunset in the background down in the Caribbean. And it is so untrue. The vast majority of landlords are people who have taken their savings from their job, invested it in this property, whether they invest in it directly or they've put money in their retirement accounts or money from their pension plans that are invested in these properties. And that's the majority of landlords. So that, yes, there are some people that are in that yacht situation, but most people are average individuals that have invested, that are trying to get by and make this investment work. So that's one of the big ahas that comes out of the book. um Another big aha is that you actually can negotiate your rent.
Hmm.
So most people, when they think about a retail experience where they're buying something, they walk into the store, there's a price on the shelf, they pay that price. They're not standing at the cash register haggling with the cashier.
Yeah.
And people take that experience and they translate it into the rental situation where you said this was what the price is, that's what the price is. We don't negotiate that. Well, the price may be different for someone who, for example, can help provide maintenance services for the property or for their
Hmm.
apartment. The price may be different if you agree to mow the lawn outside the house that I'm renting to you. The price may be different if my particular property has been vacant for, let's say, a month, and I am really not looking forward to having it vacant for another month. So there's
Hmm.
all of these situational factors that can come into play in the amount of rent that you pay. Here's another one. If you are able to, some people have, and I've talked to people who've done this, they want to rent an apartment for 6 months. They
Hmm.
come to the table with 6 months of rent up front and they ask for a discount. So depending on what situation you are in as the renter and what situation the landlord is in, there are opportunities to create a deal where
Hmm.
both parties get value out of the arrangement that is finally decided upon.
Wow. Now, what does your book also gives the rentals a list of their rights? Like, because rentals, as
Mhm.
they rent property, they do have rights as
Yep.
rentals, and landlords have rights as landlords.
Hmm.
So, what are just a couple of the rights that tenants and renters do have when they're renting property?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say on that subject is my book actually doesn't speak on the legalities of the situation. Legalities can be very specific depending on what jurisdiction you're in. So the
Okay.
book focuses on the market situation that landlords are in just
Okay.
because they're a landlord. It doesn't really, there's no geographical focus on in the book. It's these are the problems landlords have because they are in the business of renting property and because
Gotcha.
they are landlords. Now, but one of the things that your question touched on, and you probably didn't know you were touching on this when you were asking that question, is when you go to rent a property, landlords are not allowed to steer you towards any particular apartment. So it's not like, oh, you drove up in a BMW, so I need to direct you to the most expensive penthouse apartment.
Mhm.
No, the conversation is about what are your needs? How many bedrooms do you need? How many people will be living in the apartment? And then they start asking you this series of questions. Do you want to be near the pool? Do you want to be on the second floor? And what they're doing is they're allowing you to kind of steer yourself toward
Mhm.
the apartment that you think will fit your needs. Okay. Now, we're in a very consumer driven culture. So people will gravitate towards not just needs, but things they want, things that sound good.
Mhm.
So, do you want to be, near the swimming pool? Do you want to be near the laundry room? If you absolutely have to be in those places and be on the second floor and all of that, and you say yes to those things, that's great. But understand that there's something in the residential rental industry called amenity based pricing,
Hmm.
where the closer your apartment is to the swimming pool or the laundry room, the higher the rent on that apartment is.
Mm.
So if you really need to be on the second floor next to the swimming pool near the laundry room, by all means do that. But understand there's going to be a higher price for that particular apartment versus
Mm-hmm.
one that's further away from the laundry room. And you may not need to be next to the laundry room. You may just need a basket with wheels on it. So there are ways to
Get
compensate for not taking advantage of certain amenities on the property or being close to certain amenities on the property.
right, right. Awesome. All right. So, in your tell us where can we like if anyone was looking for your book, where would they be able to find it? Like, are you tell us where we can find your book at.
Oh, absolutely. So you can find it at Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, a number of different online sellers. It is available in paperback, audiobook, as well as ebook. Um, and they can also find it at rentalsecrets.net, and there they can also learn more information about me, and they can also access my free 10 tip guide on a stress-free apartment search.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. So I do want to ask one more question, and it's kind of like just after. Well, it's really not, but anyway, a lot of people when they look at your interview, they're like, "Oh, okay, this is easy for him or whatever like that." We know that being a book writer is not easy. You overcome obstacles, of course. There's going to be some drawbacks. There's going to be some times where oh, things are not going as smoothly as they should. How did you overcome those obstacles in the path of your success?
Absolutely, those things happen, and one of the ways that I've overcome them and dealt with them is networking with other people. Networking is huge. I cannot stress enough how important it is to go out and meet other people who are,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're in your field or outside of your field, and get their, and people will gladly share their perspective on what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing if they find it interesting. And they will give you ideas, and you will learn to kind of look at what you're doing, taking into account all of these other different perspectives that you've encountered. And through networking, very early on in the process of writing the book, I ran into someone who actually did a book writing class, and they just started out. This was the first time they were doing it, and it was kind of a business networking thing, and people got up in the front talking about what they were doing and what they had planned. And this person got up and talked about how he had written a book and the things that he had gone through, and he was offering this class for the first time for $25, and you could register in the back of the room. I was the second person to the table in the back of the room. And the only reason the other person beat me is because they were sitting in the back row. But networking is huge because it gives you access to resources and information and perspectives that you never would have had
Agree.
otherwise.
Awesome. Yes, because as you do broadcasting and stuff like that, there are so many networking broadcasting that you can go on, people who are asking, hey, do you need any questions? Do you have any help or whatever? So networking is a big deal. Would you say that social media plays a big part as well when it comes to like your, getting your book out there and publishing it?
Yeah. So we'll just start off with the headline. Media is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finished the book, now I was faced with the choice of, do I try and go a traditional publishing route, or do I self-publish? And I chose to self-publish because it's becoming more and more common now that writers will self-publish. The problem with self-publishing is everything is on you. So the marketing and advertising is definitely on you. So now it's a matter of getting out there and becoming visible. Well,
Mm.
how do you do that? And media, networking is one way, but media is also another
Mm-hmm.
way to do that. And just here's a great tip for one of you for your audience. And I don't know why this is the one of the best kept secrets ever, but it seems to be. There is a website called Help a Reporter Out, and there are journalists that are specifically looking for experts in all kinds of different fields to provide quotes and commentary on whatever topic they're writing about. It's
Hmm.
absolutely free, and they will deliver emails to your inbox 3 times a day, Monday through Friday. The hundreds of journalists looking for expert commentary. Scan through, find whatever relates to your area of expertise, and send in a comment responding to their questions. If they choose to use you in their article, you are now a quoted expert in your field in the media. And it's
Wow.
absolutely
Wow.
um, and I've done that several times, and that's how I've ended up in articles for realtor.com, apartmenttherapy.com, Fox News. And so that's one method into the media. Another thing that I've been doing is podcast interviews.
Mm-hmm.
All as every podcast interview opportunity I get, I take, because it's an opportunity to speak to another audience. It's another
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to get my top to raise the visibility of my topic,
Of
um,
course.
which which is a big issue, because most people think this kind of help doesn't exist. It's
Mm-hmm.
not out there. Um, it's like this is like they believe like rent negotiation is this fairy tale that doesn't actually exist, but it certainly does. So, and media plays a huge role in being more visible and getting your message out there. I mean, and it has done wonders for me, and it will do wonders for anyone else who's trying to get their message out.
Yes, thank you so much. Who is your biggest inspiration, like your motivating person with you doing all of your, your do all your success or whatever? Who would you say is your biggest like person that helps you along the way, your biggest motivator?
For me and my family, real estate has always been a family business. Um, so I mentioned earlier in the interview how my mother and I took that road trip to buy the properties on the lands available list and all of that. Um, we have kind of, in terms of investing in property and everything, we have been partners in that process all the way through. um it's been and it was an amazing experience to go through that investment journey with someone
Mm-hmm.
else who had a similar mindset to
Yes.
my own. Um and investing, because what most people experience when they start investing is the people around them look at them and say, well, why are you bothering to do that? Why don't you just buy the why aren't you spending money on this great car like I did? Why are you trying to invest? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um they don't get it, and it makes it difficult to kind of stay the course when everyone around you is not interested in what you're doing.
Yep.
uh, but yeah, my mother was a big influence in that. Sadly she passed in October.
Oh
Um,
my.
but her spirit is still in this, and
Right.
the lessons that I learned while we were investing together, that's part of what's in this book too.
That's that's all that matters, and I'm pretty sure she is helping you along the way with her spirit, and everything that you have done tremendously. It's probably helped out a hundred of people. I mean, me myself, just when I learned that I was going to be talking to you, I rent my I'm renting as well, and so
Hmm.
just learning some of the secrets and some of the issues, like just like what you said, the negotiating price. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So
Hmm.
I mean, just finding out all those secrets and stuff. Really, really, I really appreciate everything that you're doing. And thank you so much for being on the show El Music Cap today. We thank you so much for all that you have done. Everyone can go and find your book, Finding the Secrets of Being Rental, because I mean that, like you said, that is a $1 trillion industry here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, of course, I mean, it's everywhere. Renting is a big deal, and people don't notice that. I mean, so just for you to write a book about that, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So we thank you so much for your time and all your secrets. I see that you got on, Jiggy. Did you have something?
No, I was just gonna compliment you guys. This was a fantastic interview. You guys did amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I want to give it all to him. I mean, he's the one who shared his secrets, and he's doing what he's doing. And thank you so much. It's awesome to find out that there's a book out there actually for renters. Now you can go out there and you can get it. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. And if anyone's also looking for more information, I post free tips for renters and landlords on social media every day: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So follow me and check those out as well.
Okay. And where can they follow you at? What was your information?
At Rental Secrets on Instagram and at Rental Secret on Twitter.
Okay.
And they can just search for my name, Justin Pogue, on LinkedIn.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on Music Cap. We appreciate everything.
No, I totally appreciate the opportunity to be here. And you have a fantastic rest of your weekend.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Justin. Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for doing this.
All right.
Thanks, guys. And there they go. It is Music Cap this week here on 990 WBOB and more online at JiggyCheckWire.